All right, it's May roundup time already. I read 14 books in May. Okay, we're gonna go worst to best. I had 2 DNFs this month. The first one was Rules for Ruin by Mimi Matthews. I have read one other book by Mimi Matthews, which was also like a Regency romance, and I thought it was pretty cute. This was sort of pitched as like a women spy, Kingsman sort of style book. Our main female character is supposed to be a highly trained spy who had all these skills. She used none of those skills. She didn't seem particularly smart, and the male main character constantly outsmarted her. So why am I reading this? My other DNF for the month was Knotted by Pam Godwin. I loved Sea of Ruin, and I was excited to read something else by Pam Godwin. The darkness of this book, the trigger warnings, the intense trauma she puts her characters through, none of that bothered me. I just found the basic plot to make no sense. I'm still gonna read other Pam Godwin books, absolutely. This just wasn't the one for me. I'm gonna do these two as a pair because they're in the same series. So I read The Prince and the Apocalypse by Kara McDowell. I did both of these on audio. The first one was fine. I gave it 3 stars. The premise was a little ridiculous to me. Okay, fine, I was fine with it. Then I read the sequel, Heir Apparently. This was terrible. This was terrible. This one had its moments of terribleness, but I was like, okay, whatever. This one was just bad. And I was listening to this audiobook and I literally had 8 minutes left to listen to in the book and nothing had been resolved. Literally, they wrapped up the entire book in like the last 2 pages. Not only was the book ridiculous, but then the ending was so rushed. It was so stupid. At 2.5 stars, I read Kiss Her Once for Me, also on audio. It was just boring. It was like a fake dating, fake marriage trope. There's absolutely no reason why they needed to even pretend to date or get married. Again, just the general premise just didn't hold up to me at all. So yeah, that's a skip one too. At 3 stars, I read The No Girlfriend Rule. It was fine. It's 3 stars because there's nothing bad to say about it, but I wasn't like excited to read it at the same time. Also 3 stars, I finally finished this series. I wasn't going to read Wisteria. I had a lot of people tell me this is the best book in the trilogy. I do agree with that statement. This is the best book in the trilogy. Doesn't mean I liked the trilogy. I don't know. I get why people like them. It's not badly written or anything like that. It's just not my kind of book. The first 2 are kind of like murder mysteries. This doesn't really have much of a mystery element, something they're trying to solve. I think that's why I liked it a lot better. I like this couple the most, but ultimately I probably should have just not have read this because I wasn't like super into it when I read it. I didn't suddenly have a revelation on how much I loved this series. At 3.5 stars, I finally started this damn series. I've had this series on my shelf for like 4 years. So I read Stalking Jack the Ripper. It was what I expected it to be. It is young adult. I predicted the ending of this book within the first 50 pages, I'd say. But I still enjoyed the journey we went on. It was totally fine. I do plan to read the rest of the series. Nothing like amazing and life-changing about the series, but at least it's different, I feel like, from other books I've been reading lately. At 3.75 stars, I read Untainted by Lillian T. James. It's actually a reread. I read this book like 3.5 years ago, and I never read book 2. Very short book. I kind of flew through it pretty fast. It's a pretty basic fantasy book. You've definitely read this fantasy book before, but I think the plot clips along at a really nice pace. It's not bogged down with too much information. There's a lot of story left to tell, so I'm excited to read book 2. At 4.25 stars, I read Sing Sweet Nightingale by Rebecca Rennick. This is my favorite Rebecca Rennick book I have read so far. She's sort of like a Britney Spears type musician that's being sort of over-controlled by her parents. Her bodyguard helps her run away to this very small town that's like off the grid. Nobody knows about it because it is inhabited by a bunch of shifters, fairies, mermaids, you know, everything like that. And the mayor of the town is a wolf shifter. Rebecca's books are always really spicy. They're good spice. But this was just a really cute book and I really liked it a lot. Definitely recommend this one. Especially if you're somebody who really loved Bride and wants something kind of in that vein, but a little bit more maybe funny, a little bit more rom-com-y. This is the one you want. And then our 5-star reads, we had some good ones this month. We'll get the weird one out of the way first, but I finally finished A People's History of the United States. This is a nonfiction classic that I do think everybody should read. So for us, and especially people my age, the things we learned in school, this is the real history. What Christopher Columbus really did, what really happened leading up to the Trail of Tears, why we were in Vietnam. It's definitely a must read, especially if you're a history nerd like me. This is a very thick book. I did it on audio. It's about a 40-hour audio, but I did like it. You can't be zipping on 3x speed with this book. You gotta be paying attention. I also read The Twisted Throne by Danielle L. Jensen. This is Bridge Kingdom book 5, and I love this one. I had struggled with The Endless War a little bit. This to me was a real return to the feeling that you get with Bridge Kingdom. I love this couple so much. The cliffhanger is bonkers. The Bridge Kingdom series is one of my all-time favorite series. And then I had the most insane debate with myself over what was going to be my best book of the month, because I had 2 books this month that I absolutely fell in love with. So I'm going to give second place for the month to Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. It's worth the hype. It's a standalone novel. It is young adult. I don't feel like it reads young adult at all. It is a beautiful novel. Her writing style, gorgeous. I think if you're a fan of Rebecca Ross, you will love this book. For a standalone, as much info that got packed into this book, it was so well done. Any other month, this would have been the best book of the month. Unfortunately, I also read Rose and Chains this month. And if you remember, The Auction was my top book last month. I read all 3 parts of The Auction and then immediately started Rose and Chains. I think I did myself a little bit of a disservice doing that. I struggled a little bit with the first half of Rose and Chains because it is almost word for word the same as The Auction. Because I had literally just read The Auction, I was getting a little, bored because I was just reading the same thing again. If you haven't read The Auction yet, don't read this first, then go back to The Auction later on. Or if you've already read The Auction, but it's been a few months or maybe even a few years, don't reread. Julie Soto did an incredible job at taking the fanfic, adding world building to it so you're not left confused as to why things are the way they are, telling the same story, but simultaneously making it its own thing. The story does branch off a bit from The Auction at some point in the book, where I think it's going to create for a much more interesting plot and a much more interesting world moving forward for books 2 and 3. I loved it. If I had not read The Auction immediately before, I guarantee I would have read this book in one sitting. 3 out of 5 months this year, the #1 book of the month is a Julie Soto book. She's good. That woman's good. Okay, so that was 14 books in the month of May. I hope everyone has a great June. I'm going on my big Europe trip in about 10 days, so I'm not going to get a lot of reading done in June, but that's okay.